So guys, today we are going to discuss ASP.NET Core LaunchSettings.json file. Then I will show you what is AppSettings.json file. Then I will give you a brief introduction to ASP.NET Core middleware components. And finally, we will conclude with middleware request processing pipeline. ASP.NET Core request processing pipeline. So four things I'm targeting in today's session. So let us start the session by discussing LaunchSettings.json file. To understand these things, let me first create a new ASP.NET Core project, and then by using that project, I will explain you what is this ASP.NET Core LaunchSettings.json file is all about. So create a new ASP.NET Core empty project. Right, we are starting with ASP.NET Core empty. Later, I will show you how to create MVC and a Web API and other kind of applications. So I'm selecting as fast site. I'm providing the project name as fast core web application. Click on the next button. Right here, select the .NET Framework 8.0. Then click on the create button. So once you click on the create button, it is going to create the project. And more importantly, you can see the project is created with a properties folder. And if you expand the properties folder, then you will see launch settings.json file. So let us first understand this launch settings.json file. Then I will show you what is app settings.json and app settings.environment.json file. Now, if you open this launch settings.json file, then it contains a different profile section. Right? You can see profiles for HTTP, HTTPS, IIS, Express. So these are nothing but what you can see here, HTTP, HTTPS, and IIS, Express. So this is nothing but what you can say. This is the launch profile to launch your to launch your application in Visual Studio. So the point that you need to remember is, so whatever settings is defined inside this file, it is something related to these settings. That means that means what? That means how the application is going to be launched in your development machine. When you run the application using Visual Studio, how that application is going to be launched and how that application is going to be run. That is going to be defined by this launch settings.json file. And this launch settings.json file, it's nothing but it is it is a collection of profiles, and each profile is going to tell how the application is going to be launched on different exactly how. I mean, what you need to understand is what are the different way to launch the application. That is what this profile section is going to tell. So if you see, if you see, so whenever we are running the application, we need to understand few things, right? What are the things? Whenever we are running the application, first of all, you need to identify what is the server, right? What is the web server that is going to host and run our application? What is the URL, using which we can access the application? What is the environment on which the application is running? Right? What is the environment on which the application is running? Do I need to open the web browser? Do I need to open the web browser when we start the application? Right? So these are the few questions that should come to your mind. So whenever we are running the application, that means we are launching the application, we need to identify whether it is using what are the server, whether it is using custom server, IIS, or both. So what is the web server that is going to launch our application? I mean, where the web server is going to host, whether custom is alone going to host the application, IIS is alone going to host the application, or it is IIS is going to work as a external server and custom is going to work as a internal server. How the application is going to be hosted? What is the URL? So whether I can access this URL using HTTP protocol, or whether I can access this application, using HTTPS protocol, or both, right? How you want to launch the application? Do you want to provide support for only HTTP? Do you want to provide support for only HTTPS, or do you want to provide support for both HTTP and HTTPS? What is the environment? As you know, whenever we are running the application, right? Sometimes what we need to do, we need to write from our local machine. We need to communicate with the development database. We need to communicate with the right, QA database, we need to communicate with the staging database. Even sometimes, right, we can also connect it to the production database, right? So what is the environment on which you want to run the application? Whether it is going to be who is mute video, right? The guys video is strictly prohibited. Don't right, unmute your video, right? So what is the environment? Whether you are running the application in development environment, or whether you are running the application in a staging environment, or whether you are running the application in a production environment. What is the environment? Do I need to open the web browser when you run the application? Yes, I want to open the root URL. No, I don't want to open the root URL. So these are the things, right, that what we need to provide when we run the application in our development environment, or you can say when we run the application either using Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code or using .NET Core CLI command. So these are the settings that what we need to provide inside the AppSettings.json file. Clear? Sorry, inside the LaunchSettings.json file. Is that clear?
Yes.
Right. Now, let us try to proceed and understand these settings, right? So, what is this AI settings? We will come to this part. So, this schema, what exactly this is? So, this is going to provide the right syntax, you can say, right? For example, if I'm using C# programming language, then what syntax I need to follow? Do I need to follow C# syntax, or I need to follow Java or C++ syntax? C# syntax. Similarly, this LaunchSettings.json file, you cannot put anything randomly. So whatever things you are going to put inside this LaunchSettings.json file, that should be a valid value. And that validation is going to be checked by the schema. And this schema means this is going to be open some right syntax, or you can say. So this is syntax, right? So how the structure should be, right? This is the structure. So whatever they have provided inside this schema, these are the things, right, that what you can define inside this AppSettings.json file. Apart from this, anything else, this is going to be invalid. So the schema exactly going to tell whether the content, whatever you provide here, is valid or invalid. Is that clear? Yes or no?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Pranay.
Now, I will come to this IA settings later, but now you can see how many profiles are there inside this profile section. This is the root section where we can define different kind of profiles. And here you can see currently we are having 3 different kind of profiles. Who is on mute? Who is on mute? Guys, please mute yourself while I'm explaining. Right? Because I don't want any kind of noise. So here you can see there are 3 different types of a profile, and here you can see there is also 3 different types of profile: HTTPS, HTTP, and IIS Express. And this is the HTTP, HTTPS, and the IIS Express. If you guys remember, if I run the application using HTTP or HTTPS profile, then what will be the web server that is going to host and handle the incoming HTTP request?
Castrol.
Yes,
In process hosting.
Sorry? What will be the web server that is going to host the application? If I run the application,
Castrol.
Crystal.
only Castrol, or it is a combination of a Castrol and any other web server?
Combination.
Only Castrol, right? So
All
how we can make sure that is going to be run by the Castrol web server? That is going to be specified by the command name object. If the command name property value is set to project, it means this section is going to be handled by the Castrol web server. The command name value project indicate that this section, right, whatever is here, the application is going to be hosted by the Castrol web server. Now, similarly, if you open this HTTPS profile, then also it is set to project. So project command name project means what? Command name project means it is going to be the Castrol web server. Clear? Clear or not?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Now, coming to this IIS Express, what is the command name? IIS Express. So IIS, so when I use IIS Express, then what will be the web server going to host the application?
IIS. IIS Express.
It depends on, right, what kind of hosting model we are using. IIS can alone handle the request if it is in process hosting. IIS cross cluster right, Kestrel web server will come into the picture if it is out of process hosting model. By default, IIS Express is going to handle in this case, right? If we set auto process, then again IIS Pro plus custom web server will come into the picture. Is that right? Am I correct? That is what we discussed in our last session, right? Yes. So now this command name is clear to everybody.
Yes, sir.
Now, this .NET runtime message is true, right? This is only come into the picture, right? When we run the application using .NET CLI command, right? .NET CLI command, right? So I will take one session and I will explain what we mean by .NET CLI command, how we can create, publish, deploy, build, run .NET Core application using .NET Core CLI command. And one more thing that what I need to run. So whenever I'm going to run the application using .NET Core CLI command, then that application is going to be run using Kestrel web server only. So that is the reason why you can see this .NET runtime message is available in HTTP and HTTPS profile, but not in IIS profile. Why? Because this is not possible to, and it doesn't make any sense. Why? Because whenever I'm going to run the application using .NET Core CLI command, at that time that application is going to be run using Kestrel web server only. So as only Kestrel web server, so this .NET runtime message is there. But that is not possible. So it is impossible to run the application using IIS Express using .NET Core CLI command. That is the reason why this message is not available here. So what is the use of this message? Right? So basically, if I'm running the .NET Core application using .NET CLI command, right? The starting information, right? When the project is built, when the project is compiled, right? The project is starting. These messages, do you want to print from the console window? Yes, I want to print. For that purpose, I need to make this value to true. If I make this value is false, that starting information, right, are not going to be displayed on the command prompt. That is the only use, nothing else. Clear? I will show you this thing, right, practically when I will run the application, build the application, deploy the application using .NET Core CLI command. For now, just remember if its value is true, means that starting project starting related information, they are going to be printed on the console window. If it false, they are not going to be displayed. Clear?
Clear, sir.
Right. The next part is launch browser. So launch browser true means what? Now, whenever the project is hosted, right, using Kestrel web server in this case, hosted using Kestrel web server in this case,
Sir,
do
can
you
we
want
give the different name of command, space
these
of
are
project?
you cannot change something, right? This is fixed.
Okay. Okay, sir. Okay.
So this is only two commands like project and IIS Express. So
Yes.
any other command?
So this is for the development machine. This file is only available in the development machine. When you host the project into IIS or into a different server, this file will not be available there.
Okay,
This is only for the development environment, not for the production. Production, how you are hosting the application, there only you need to provide the right what I can say, what is the application URL and all those things. If it is IIS
this is
server,
for only developer. Okay.
yes, it is only for the development machine, not for the production. And in development machine, only two web server are there. One is a customer web server and another one is IIS. Again, who is mute to unmute video? Guys, this is not good, right? And in development machine or Visual Studio, you can consider only two web server are there. One is Kestrel and another one is IIS Express. For Kestrel, the command name is going to be project. For IIS Express, the command name is going to be IIS Express. So there is no more command. Clear?
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yes.
Even when we deploy it in IS Express also, we'll be needing the application URL, no?
So that is not required. So whenever you are deploying into the application, right, in the production server, there will be domain name.
Okay.
Right? Do you know how to deploy the application into right in the production environment and in the right actual web server?
No, sir.
Right? So you will not understand this thing, right? So this there's something called, right. Here I'm using a local host. Right, so that local host means in production environment, this local host will be replaced with the machine IP address, and there is a mapping right in the host profile. You need to provide for the IP address, right? What will be the right? What I can say actual domain name. Do you know what do you mean by domain name? You need to buy the domain name from different right. Right, provider domain name provider are there, right? From there you need to buy the domain name, and then you need to map that domain name right with your local IP address of your machine, and that domain name you need to use right whenever you are hosting that application, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
and this is nothing but your port number. This port number should be available. Whatever port number you are going to use, mostly I think 443 is for the SSL. I mean for HTTPS, and 80 I think for the HTTP protocol. Am I right? Those who
Yeah.
are having is Rajesh typing something on the right? Who is Rajesh? Who is Rajesh? I'm asking.
Sir, by mistakenly, of course. Sorry.
Okay. Right. So you should take proper care, right? So this is right disturbing, right? Not only me, but also to everyone.
Excuse me.
Let me be clear. Yeah.
Excuse me. In the IS Express, I didn't hear you well. Sorry. Why is there no application URL?
So
In I,
I might discuss this IIS Express application URL. Currently, I'm discussing these two. I will
oh,
come
okay,
to the
okay,
IIS Express later, right?
okay. Thank you,
Now,
thank you. Okay.
yeah, now you can see for this custom web server, there are two commands. One is HTTP and HTTPS. So if I run the application using HTTP or HTTPS, then this profile will be used. So if I'm running the application using HTTPS, then this profile will come into the picture. If I'm running the application using HTTP, then this profile will come into the picture. So command name specify what will be the web server. .NET runtime message, this is specifically for .NET CLI command. If you are running the application with .NET Core CLI, right? Then at that time, whatever the starting information, right? If you want to log in the console window, you have to make this value true. Otherwise, you can make this value as false. Launch browser means what? Now, whenever it hosts the application, do you want to automatically launch the default browser of your machine and access the root URL of your application? Yes, I want to access. Then in that case, you have to set this value to true. If you set this value to false, then default URL, right? Default browser will not open with the default URL. And in case of HTTP, you can see the application URL means using this particular localhost and this port number, you can access the project. And coming to HTTPS, the rest of the thing is same. But whenever I'm launching the application using HTTPS launch profile, I can access the application using both HTTP and HTTPS protocol. HTTPS protocol you can access using 7094, and HTTP protocol you can access using 5098. Clear?
Okay, sir.
Right now. Now
Sir,
coming to the
default URL means I didn't get what is the default launch browser? Yes, equal to true. Then it will consider the default URL. Means what is default URL?
default URL means, see, in this case, if I'm running the application using HTTP, then what is the URL it is going to use? Suppose HTTPA, default launch browser set is to true. So if I run this application, then what is the URL available to access the application? This is the URL, right?
Okay.
For example, let me run the application. First of all, it will launch the application, and this is the default URL.
Use the port number.
Default means the root URL, right? Now,
Okay.
if I run the application using HTTPS, right, then I can access the application using both HTTP as well as HTTPS. So as HTTPS is more secure, so what he will do, he will open the URL using HTTPS profile. But you can still access that application using HTTP. For example, okay, let me run this one using HTTPS. See, this is HTTPS. So now I can also access the application using HTTP. So now you can see this is not secure, but this is a secure. So for secure, right, whatever SSL certificate and all these things, that is going to be managed by the Visual Studio. Now, if I set this value to false, then what will happen? Then by default, it will only write host to application, but it will not launch the default web browser. Let us prove this. So I run the application, right? And here you can see the host, it only hosts the application, but no default browser. But now it is also saying now you can access the application using two URL. Here you can see the URL HTTPS. You can copy this URL, open the browser and paste it here. You can access that application. Yes, it is accessible. Even you can also access that application using this URL HTTP. Clear?
Yes, sir. Got it. Thank you.
Right now, environment variable, basically what exactly it means, I will discuss environment in detail in our coming session, right? So basically, right, for example, I'm using some database. That database might be your development database, might be your production database, might be your staging database. Now what you need to do, currently you are running the application in development mode. Now you want to switch to staging mode. And when you switch to staging mode, right, you want to communicate with the staging database. If you move to the production mode, then again you need to move to the production environment. So that flexibility how you can achieve within your local development machine. So that flexibility is possible using this environment variable. So here, currently I'm setting the environment as a development means, right, the application is going to be run in development mode. So I can also set this value to production. I can also set this value to staging. That's something like this. These are the three different values by default provided. One is development, another one is production, another one is staging. Now inside your application, you can write the code. If the environment is development, then I need to show the detailed error page. If the environment is not development, then I don't want to show that detailed error page. I need to show a generic error page. How is this possible? Because of this environment variable. Now, if I run the application using development environment, for example, currently, if I'm using HTTP profile, then it is going to run the application in development environment. And if we have written any code which is going to execute only for development environment, code is going to be executed. If we are writing something which is specific to production and staging, then those code are not going to be executed. For example, if I use HTTPS profile, the HTTP profile means the environment is a production. If I'm running the application using if I have written some code which should execute on production, then that code is going to be executed. Other than production, they are not going to be executed. That means in your local, in the same Visual Studio, right, within the same application, you can get the flavor of development, production, and staging environment using this environment variable. I will show you practically, right, how you can enable the detailed error page in the development environment, how you can show a generic error page other than the development environment, right? And why required? Because in the development environment, we need to see what exactly went wrong. But in the production, which is going to be used by the client, at that time, we don't want to display the detailed error message. Rather than we need to provide a generic error page. That is possible based on this environment variable. How we can use them, I will show you practically. Clear? For example, you are developing a new feature, which you want to show in the development environment, but immediately one production issue comes. Then what you need to do? You need to fix that issue and you need to provide a deployment. But while providing the deployment, whatever the new feature you have developed, right, which is tested in the development environment, you don't want to expose that to the client, right? Or you can say in the production environment. Then how you can do this? So in that case, you can put those code, right, which is there in the development mode with the environment equals to development, which is not going to be executed on the production. In production, it will check the environment as in production, right? You can set the environment as production. So this code, whatever you have written specific to development environment, these are not going to be displayed. So that is what that flexibility you can achieve by using this ASP.NET Core environment. Again, what is this environment variable? We will see practically, right? I will take one session explaining this. What are the different environment? What is the role and responsibility of each environment as a developer? These things we are going to discuss. Clear?
So can you show how we can set the environment for the new feature that you just said?
I will show you practically. I'm going to show you why you are in a
Okay.
hurry. I'm
Okay.
saying, see, if I'm not going to show why I'm discussing this thing. I'll show you how you can display the detailed error page, right, in the development environment. If it is other than development, how you can to write to a generic error page, right? All these things I'm see. You are learning here means A to Z. I'm going to explain what is required, what is not required, what is mandatory, what is optional, why you should do this, why you should not do this. All these things we are going to discuss. But for now, just remember there are different kind of environment. Based on the environment, we can also do some kind of a settings.
Sir, this
Clear?
is not related to any connection string. Na? Suppose if I am development, use the suppose I use
This
the development.
is right. What I'm saying is this file available on the production?
No,
Then how you can put the connection string here?
no. Suppose in development machine we are connecting to the database, and for that we have some three connection string. One for a production, one for a staging, one for development. So
Yes.
that way we are I am asking. Sometime in live environment we connect the production now from Visual Studio. Some for
That's how
emergency.
you can see. So for that purpose, we need to learn. First of all, you just tell me, can I put the connection string inside this LaunchSettings.json file?
No, not possible.
Then this is not possible. So whatever you are asking, that is possible using AppSettings.json file. And here you can say AppSettings.json file is there. This is generic, and here AppSettings.development.json. Similarly, I can create AppSettings.staging.json, AppSettings.production.json, and based on the environment what we set here, that corresponding JSON file is going to be executed. If I'm running the application in development mode, then AppSettings.development.json file is going to be executed. If I'm running the application in production mode, then the AppSettings.production.json file is going to be executed.
Yes,
And
that,
in development mode, you can provide the connection string, which is pointing to the development
no.
database. In the
Yes.
production JSON file, you need to provide the connection string, which is pointing to the production environment. Clear?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Right now. So this two profile is clear, HTTP and HTTPS.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Now coming to this IIS section, right? So here you can see here it is only provide the command name IIS express means the database, the web server is going to be IIS right express. That data right that web server can alone right host the application and handle the incoming HTTP request if right what if the hosting model is in process. IIS plus what I can say, IIS plus custom web server will come into the picture if the hosting if the hosting model is out of process,
Out of process.
right? So now with this command prompt that is fine, launch browser is true, that is fine, environment variable is staging, that's fine. But where is the right application URL? How I can access the data? So that is defined inside this IIS settings. So in IIS settings, right, you can see some other thing is also there, Windows authentication. So do you want to enable Windows authentication for your application? No, I don't want to enable. So what is Windows authentication? What is anonymous authentication? Authentication completely I'm going to discuss. But for now, Windows authentication is false means there is no Windows authentication. Anonymous authentication true means without login, without credential, anyone can access my application. That is the meaning of anonymous authentication. And this is IIS Express settings. Here, application URL, you can see this is the URL for the HTTP protocol, and this is the port number for the HTTPS protocol. If I'm accessing the application using this port number, this is HTTP, and right, if I'm using HTTPS, then this is the port number. For example, I'm running IIS. In IIS, so by default, it will run the application using this port number, but still we can also access the application using this port number. So let me run the application. So it is using 44383. So this is the port number. This is using HTTPS. Now I can also access that application using this one. Hello one. Now, clear? Now, if you don't want to use HTTPS, then what you need to do, you just need to put this 0. So 0 means there is no port number for SSL. So in this case, right, it is going to access the application using HTTP only. And you can see 63490, which is the port number for HTTP protocol. Now, whatever settings we have provided here, is that clear?
Yes, sir. Sir, in that profile, means we have this fixed properties, attributes. We don't have any other properties in that, like
No,
HTTP.
other properties you can define, right? For example, I want to define some kind of settings, right? Custom settings you can define here. I'm going to show you that also.
Okay. So there is any website for this? Means we have that much attributes.
But see, first of all, you just need to remember. So why they're not providing that much of a flexibility to this launch settings? Because this is only for the development environment, right? How to launch the application, that is going to be decided by this launch pro settings.json file. When you run the application using Visual Studio Code or .NET Core CLI. So what kind of customization you need? Right? So whatever you are asking, can you please tell me what kind of a customization you need?
No, sir. In future, means I am asking if this is
See,
all mandatory, no? Means if we
See, that is what I'm asking. So, if you want to do some kind of a customization, then what kind of a customization you need? So, here we are not defining any business logic or application logic. So,
correct.
this is what how to run the application. That's it, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Here, right, you can define some kind of right. The customization means some kind of settings, right, or you can say key value pair data, which you can access right in your application. Is that clear? But generally we do not do anything special in the launch settings.json file. Why? Because this file is only for use to launch the application, and whatever settings required for launching the application, those settings are already provided by Visual Studio. And we do not need to do any kind of changes apart from changing this environment. Right. So for example, development to staging, staging to production, production to right other things, right? That's what we can set here. Clear, guys?
Excuse me?
It's
There's no, why is there no authentication in Windows, authentication in other profile, except in IIS Express? Authentication, yeah, but there's no authentication in other ones, in Castro.
Hey, so first of all, you just tell me, I think you are in a wrong direction. Does the Custodial server has any capacity to handle or provide any kind of authentication authorization settings? If
No,
you
because
remember,
it's the second one. It's internal.
if you remember what I have discussed in our last, Custodial only used to execute our application code and host the application. He doesn't have that ability to provide any kind of server level settings like authentication, right validation, right URL rewriting. Is this available with the Custodial web server?
No, that's all right. I think I'm fine.
Not
Sorry.
available. Then why they
Yeah,
should provide these things? You only
yeah,
know
you're
the
right.
answer.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
In IIS, these things are possible.
Yeah. Okay,
That is the
thanks.
right. We are not using Custodial as a L1 web server to host and handle all the requests, right? It is going to be used as an internal web server to execute our application code. Clear, guys?
Yeah, sure.
Sir, if we are using only launch settings for development purpose, then while pushing it to the main branch or production branch, we won't push it launch settings file.
No. But in production, this launch settings is not required.
Okay.
Why I'm going
Then
to use
what is the purpose of changing the environment to production? What is the purpose of changing the environment to staging when we are not
so
pushing it?
now you just tell me. Now you just tell me. So what I make you understand, right? So what do you understand? See, so are you working with any real-time project in your company?
Yes, sir.
So how you are doing, right? Suppose there is a production database, there is a staging database, there is a QA database, there is a development database. There are different kind of a databases or not?
Yes, sir.
How you are communicating with them? Do I
Think
need to change?
upsetting.
Right? Do I need to change the database connection string again and again in my AppSettings.json file?
Yeah,
we-
yeah. You just oh
Yes or no? Yes or no?
yes, for different databases, we'll be having different connection strings.
Right. That's right. So no. I'm not. So different connection string means what? Are you putting more than one connection string in your AppSettings.json file or in your web config file?
No,
No,
only
only one.
So one connection string, but that value you are changing, right, as per your requirement, right?
Yes.
Right. What will happen if you forget? Right. If you forget to move that production to development and you start running the application and doing some changes locally, what will happen?
Sorry.
All data will be gone to the production database, testing
yeah.
Right.
data.
So, for example, you point to the production database from your local machine and
Okay,
you
sir.
started testing something. But you forgot to return back, right? To forget to update that production database to your right QA or the development database. You forgot. And then what you have done, you have tested and you have doing something, right? You are running the application, doing whatever you are doing in your daily life. Then all this data are going to be updated and modified or stored in the production database or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
That is what how you can avoid. So for that purpose, right, we are going to use launch settings.json file in our application. We can create one app settings, right here. We can create one app settings for the development, one app settings for the production, and one app settings for the right staging environment, right? And then in the staging environment, for example, let me give you another example, right? Suppose you are consuming some third-party services. For consuming the third-party services, they are also providing some kind of a staging API key, right key, and right salt and API URL. For production, they are also providing different URL, different keys, right? And from your application, you want to test with the staging environment sometime, production environment sometime. So do I need to put a single key or in the single place where I'm going to update the keys and values URL again and again? Or it is better to create a different configuration file, one configuration for the development related settings, another configuration for the production related settings. Which one is better?
Different
Different
files are
configuration.
better.
So you created different file. Here you created one development JSON file. You created one app settings.json file. You created one right staging.json file. But how you can do this testing? For example, I don't want to do any changes in my application code. I want to run the application which should point to the QA environment. Right now I want to run the application which should point to the staging environment. I should run the application which should point to the right development environment. How I can do this with
We
minimal
come,
change?
we will
That
come
is,
into profiles and we will change that.
so what you need to
Application.
do, you just need to come to launch profile, and here you need to select which launch profile I'm going to use. I'm going to the HTTPS. Okay, which one is HTTPS? This one. Okay, let me make this environment as a development. Let me make this environment as a staging. Let me make this environment as a production. Once I do the changes here, automatically that corresponding development JSON, launch settings, right, production JSON, right, whichever environment you set, that environment settings are going to be read from that JSON file. So is this a good approach?
Great. Super.
Okay? That is the use of this environment variable. Here you can set
If we are having setting, if we are setting HTTPS 3 times, then
how you can set it 3 times. So can you define the same key multiple times here? Is this a valid JSON? So what I'm getting?
no.
It makes sense, right? Doesn't make any sense. So you should know, right, the basics of right. So can I create a class with name property 2 times?
No, sir, we cannot.
No.
So you can only define the same, and these are profiles, right? And these are created based on the this launch browser, right? So how you are going to launch the application, HTTP, HTTPS, and IIS Express. Based on this, these are created. You cannot do this thing. Clear, guys?
So
No,
if we
sir, still
want to
confusing.
connect, so if we
Yes.
want to connect, if we want to connect to the QA environment, so where do we have to change the environment? Is it in all HTTPS in everything, or only on
What
one
are
of
you
the
going?
segments?
why I'm going to see, first of all, you just need to tell, you just need to identify using which launch profile you are going to run the application. You are getting my point? There are three profile. Are you going to use all these three profile, or using only one profile you are running the application? So whichever profile you are using to run the application, just go ahead and change that environment variable, right? To that particular environment. For example, if I'm running HTTP, you can change this to here. If you are using HTTPS, you can change here. If you are using IIS Express, you can use here. If you are using all these three, then go and change all these three, which is not going to take more than 5 seconds.
So, but then
Clear?
how it gets associated with the specific JSON file from app settings? Like how that is getting mapped?
That is going to be taken care by the framework. So here you are setting the ASP.NET environment, and when the program is launched, right, this create builder method, he is going to read this launch settings.json file, and he said, and he see that the environment is a development, and as the environment is a development, the framework is going to read this settings from this app settings.development.json file.
And then do we have to change the URL also in the launch setting when we change the
So
environment?
why we need to change the URL? You just tell me.
So,
Is there
for
any-
example, HTTP I am using for development also and for QA environment also. So
that
I'm
does it make sense to say? So, for example, whenever you are using your current application, right, whether it is MVC or Web API application, if you are changing the connection string, does the URL getting changed?
no.
Then why you are going to change here? So what we are changing, we are reading the connection string. Doesn't matter whatever the URL, whatever the port number, doesn't matter. What matter, where to connect. Whether I need to connect it to the QA database. So QA connection string is important, not the HTTP protocol or HTTPS protocol or whatever the port number. They are going to be remain same. The same protocol, right? Whatever the HTTPS I'm using this same URL, I can access the development environment. I can access the QA environment. I can access the the production environment. You just ask yourself, what is the need of changing the port number and the URL? Is
So
there any need?
simply, so so to understand simply, we are using environment variables to use production and staging in local.
Exactly,
Okay, got it.
right? And even I'm saying I'm going to discuss this environment separately one session, right? For now, just remember you can set a different kind of a environment using this environment variable on your local machine. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Hello, I have one
Yes.
question here. Here you have said that CLR is mapping the setted assetting dot JSON file. So suppose my
I'm just
environment name
discussing,
is a
right?
development.
I'm not yet discussing app settings.json file. I'm going to discuss app settings.json file. Currently, so whatever profile we have discussed here, we have defined here. Any question?
Sir, one question. Suppose we have given production environment and we have done some DML activity. So will that be a good practice?
So I'm not getting your question.
Suppose I have given some given production environment and I have updated some data in the production.
Ideally, right? So I cannot say it is a good practice or it is a bad practice. That is your requirement, you can do it. No one can stop you. But ideally, right, to be saying frankly, right, on currently, right, on which project I'm working, even I don't know what is the IP address or what is the username password of the production database. We don't have access to production, right?
Okay.
If you have access to production database, means you are great. But ideally, general developer, right, they don't have access to production.
And sir, another question. So, whenever we are working, QA, UAT, and production will have different application URLs. How we will set those URLs like dev.applicationname.com, QA.application.
First of all, this is not the QA environment or staging environment.
Right,
This
right,
is
right.
on your local machine.
Correct.
So QA environment means you have to buy some domain for the QA, buy some domain for the staging, buy some domain for the production. They are
Okay.
from different environment, and this is your local machine only.
Mm-hmm.
On local machine, how you can get the flavor of a different environment? For that purpose, right? We are using this environment variable.
Okay.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Sir, one last question.
Excuse me. Oh, okay. Go ahead, please.
Yes, please.
Excuse. Yeah. Oh,
Okay. Should I?
Yes, Sagar, please.
please do.
Who is
Okay.
going to ask the
Okay.
question?
Excuse me. Okay, I want to ask. He's not going ahead. My question is, in production, if we set it to production, so that is just to test, to mimic a production environment in our local machine. In this case.
Right. So, what exactly it means? For example, if I have written some code here, and which code that code I want to only execute in the development environment, not in the production. Then if I set this environment as a production, then is that code is going to be executed? Right. For
No.
example, if I'm writing here, if what I can say that environment dot is production, right? If I'm writing this statement, right, then this statement, suppose I want to execute in the production environment, right? And then what I'm doing, I'm going to write something else here. This is right. So in this case, what I'm saying, right, hello world, right, from production, and here hello world from development, right? For example, let us. So in this case, right, what exactly I'm doing here, right? So currently, what is the environment? Let's say development environment, right? Let's say development environment. Now, what I'm doing here, right? Okay, this is the common URL which can be accessed by anyone, no issue. And here I have set this one is development, right? So let's give this as some slash from home, right? So now, if I access this URL, I can access using any environment, development, production, staging, no issue. Okay, let me give this as a staging. Let me give this as a staging. Let me give this as a production. Now you just tell me if I'm going to use HTTP launch profile, can I access both this? HTTP profile. What is the environment?
Yes.
Development. Development. I can access this one. For this one, there is no environment. This is not environment specific. So any environment, we can access this URL. But this part is only going to be executed if the environment is development. Now, using HTTPS profile, can I access this one?
No.
No.
This IIS Express, can I access?
No.
Let us prove this one. Right? So I'm running the application using HTTPS. Right? Okay, let me do one more thing. So let me make this as a true so that the browser is going to be launched when we run the application, right? So let me run the application. So I'm getting hello world and I'm writing /home. Am I getting the output? I'm getting what? 404.
Yes.
It's not found.
Yes.
I'm not getting the output. Why? Because this is right for HTTPS profile, the environment is staging. Now I'm running the application using IIS Express. IIS Express. So now I run the application. I'm getting the output. Now I'm writing /home. Am I getting the output? No, I'm not getting the output. Now I'm using HTTP profile. Right? So this is the HTTP profile where the environment is development. Run the application and the type /home. Am I getting the output?
Yes.
Why I'm getting the output? Because currently what profile I'm using HTTP, that profile set the environment as development And in development environment, while it is creating the web host, it is checking the LaunchSettings.json file to verify what should be the web browser, whether I need to run the right to open the web browser, right? What should be the web server? Do I need to open the web browser when the project is hosted? What should be the application URL to host the application? And what is the environment? So all these things are provided by this HTTP profile, and that settings are going to be taken care by this create builder method. So when the web server is hosted, right? When the web host is created, it hosts all, it identify all these things, right? What is the web server? What is the port number? What is the application URL? What is the environment? And so, and most important, the environment is set here. And now it is going to check if the environment is development. Yes, environment is development. Then you can access this page. If environment is not development, you cannot access. Clear or not?
Great, great. Well explained.
Now,
But
now,
excuse me.
For example, I'm writing some kind of a exception handling logic. And what is my requirement if there is any unhandled exception? And if the environment is development, then only go and display the complete error message. If the environment is not development, don't display the completely error message, right? Display generic error message. So that is possible using this one, right? So all these things are possible because of this ASP.NET Core environment variable. Clear?
Yeah, and please, one more question. Yeah, it's clear. But which means all these ones are just in in your local machine. That everything now, production, environment, production, development, and staging, in this case, is applies to local environment, your local machine.
I'm not getting your question. What do you mean by local machine, local environment?
Your own environment, local, needs not external. What I mean is your own, your own machine.
Need, right? First of all, you just tell me, is there any need for a local environment, custom environment?
Yeah, well, what I meant by local environment is like
what
you have the URL, your local.
I'm not getting. What do you mean by local environment?
Your working station, my working station, my Visual Studio, my local.
Local means this is
local
the
host. I mean local host, my local host.
I'm not
Everything is now applied to my local host, not external.
I don't know something there is my local host. I only work with this local host.
Yeah, that is what I mean. That is what I'm not domain. If I have to go in production, then I have to do it in domain. Like production
Sir,
domain.
I think so. He's trying to. Hello. I think he's trying to say that like will this all the settings will be applicable on his local machine?
Yeah.
Or else will yeah. Is that the question you are asking? Trying to ask?
Sure. That's what I'm asking.
First of all, you just tell me, sir, is this profile available on the production?
No, that's what I meant. That is all everything is on local. That's what I meant.
Everything is local means this is only your local machine. So currently, where I'm running my application?
Local.
So this is the local machine only.
Yeah.
Whatever settings I'm providing and whatever currently I'm showing, this is on any production staging or QA, or it is on my local machine.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So if I want to know how my code will run on production, just to know, to test my code on production. So I have to put this into production on my local machine. Then I can test it.
Right. So the production means what? I think you never worked on any production project, right? You never host any application. Did you host any application on production?
No, I never host, but I've worked with.
Understand, right? Production environment is completely different. So here we are not working with on the production environment, rather than how the application is going to be behave on production environment. That flavor we are providing here.
That's what I meant. No, it's clear. That's what I want to find out. Yeah.
How the application is going to be behave on production. For example, this environment option is not available. And if you want to test something on the development machine, but not on the production. Now, if this code I'm going to publish, and wherever I'm going to publish, then for example, in the staging environment, using the hosting name, we need to set the environment as a staging. In the production, we need to set the environment right on the production machine, right? We need to set the environment as a production. Then if I wrote this code is not going to be executed on the production.
Yeah, very clear. Right? Thank you. That's what I meant. Thank you. Okay, very clear.
Right. So the next thing, what we are going to discuss is AppSettings.json file. Clear, guys? This LaunchSettings.json file.
Sure, sure.
Right. Okay, one more thing I have forgot to mention in LaunchSettings.json file. You can also do the settings, right, using, right, what I can say, properties, project properties. So open the properties window, go to the debug profile. Here, open debug launch profile UI. Here also you can see the different launch profile similar to this one. So here you can say HTTP, HTTPS, and IIS Express. In the LaunchSettings.json file, you will also see this HTTP, HTTPS, and IIS Express. And here also you can set the LaunchSettings.json file. Here you can set, right, what is the environment, right, and what is the URL, right, what is the application URL for HTTPS, right. You can also set the application to, right, to URLs. For IIS, you can also set these things, right. In IIS, you can have also the hosting model, right. So these are the settings what you can also do there. Clear?
Yeah, can I add any customized launch profile for my application?
That you can create now. For that purpose, you need to first create a profile here, something like this. Right? For example, right? Okay, let me do one more thing. Right? Instead of this, what I'm going to do, my HTTPS. Right? Suppose I created this my HTTPS. So in this case, right, you can see that my HTTPS is coming, right?
Okay,
And
okay,
now
got it.
whatever the settings you need, you can do this, and accordingly it is going to execute. Clear?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
But ideally, this is not required. Why? Because whatever the right custom settings they are providing, that is more than enough. But if you want, you can create your own right launch profile, and that what it is going to display here. Clear,
Yeah,
guys?
cool.
Okay.
Yep.
Next, what we are going to discuss is, right, guys, once the basic concept are completed, then we'll start, right, the real application development. But these are the things, right, what we need to understand, right? So next, what we are going to discuss is, right, AppSettings.json file. So now, if you are coming from a ASP.NET MVC background, right, then you might be working with a web config file. What is the use of web config file?
Database connectivity purpose.
So
It's
web
contain the
config file
database connectivity and application setting.
And
don't say
DLL.
database. So you can store database connection string. You can store the logging configurations. Who is on mute? Right? You can store the any third party, any right third party services API keys. You can store the authentication settings. Suppose you are using JWT HMAC. You can store the external API URL. If you are communicating with some third-party API, if you don't want to store them in database, you can also store them in web config file and any application level global variable. For example, you want to provide a key for encryption and decryption to enable an HMAC, to disable HMAC, right? For example, you want to provide a key based on which, right, you want to provide the support for encryption and decryption, right? If key value is this, then enable this. For example, right, you want to suppose you are developing one real-time application and you want to provide one key based on which the delivery charges is going to be applicable or not. For example, right, if the right, if you guys remember, right, anyone attend my last session, last Saturday, last Sunday session? In,
Yes, Pranay.
Yeah, I attended.
anyone here who attend my last Sunday sessions where I've discussed, right, how to implement that order right processing system,
Yeah, I attended.
right? So in that case, did I provided any right variables in the app settings, right, based on which I'm going to provide whether the deliver charges is going to be taken or not? Yes or no?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, you
So,
have told.
right, so these things you can put inside the web config right config file. But the bad thing is that ASP.NET Core doesn't support this web config file. And for this purpose, right, in ASP.NET Core, we are going to use something called, right, we are not going to use a app setting, but we are provided with a many configuration file. One is AppSettings.json, Another one is AppSettings.environment.json file. So this environment, it can be your production, staging, and other development environment. You can have LaunchSettings.json file. This is a LaunchSettings.json file. This is only for development environment, not for production. Right? You can make use of secret manager. You can make use of a secret manager. This is also for the development environment, not for the production. You can make use of the command line arguments. Right, so you can also make use of a command line argument. So whatever here I have provided, right, all these things you can store in the AppSettings.json file, AppSettings.environment.json file, LaunchSettings.json file, from the secret manager, as well as from the command line argument. So all these are the different configuration files which is provided in a ASP.NET Core, where we can store the configuration information. Clear?
Can you just repeat, means what is the drawback in web.config? Why they introduced that ASP.NET? That I missed part. I think some.
So for see, you just tell me this web config file, it is based on XML or JSON.
XML.
And between the XML and JSON, which is lightweight?
JSON is lightweight.
Which is easier to manage?
JSON.
The JSON is lightweight.
Yes.
JSON is easier to manage.
Yes.
Right? JSON is easier to manage.
Mm-hmm.
Then you give the answer why they introduce
Yes. Correct.
JSON. So this AppSettings.json file, it is a JSON file, not an XML file. As it is a JSON file, it is going to be lightweight and you can easily manage, because here you need to put the data in the form of a key value pair. Clear?
Yes.
Now, these are the different configuration file where we can store the data. So what are the file? AppSettings.json file, environment specific JSON file, environment variables, right? This is nothing but you can say LaunchSettings.json file, right? LaunchSettings.json file means this is environment variable. Here you can also store some application, right, configuration file, user secret, and the command line argument. So these are the different, right, what I can say, configuration files which are available in ASP.NET Core, where we can store the data. And what are the things that what we can put inside this file? We can put database connection string, we can provide the logging information, API key, course information, authentication setting, right, external API URL, any global level which you want to access throughout the application. Clear? ASP.NET Core support, right? ASP.NET Core also support environment specific configuration file. So environment specific configuration file means what? Now we can also create development.json file, staging JSON file, as well as a production JSON file. And these files are going to be load only, all right, at any given point of time. Only one of this file is going to be load. Why? Because at any given point of time there is only one environment. So if we are running the application in development environment, then the settings what we defined in the AppSettings.development.json file, those settings are going to be load. If we are running the application in staging environment, then from this file the settings are going to be load. If you are running the application in production environment, then it is going to load the right settings from the production.json file. And most important point that what you need to remember, right? If you define the same settings in the AppSettings.json file as well as in the AppSettings.environment.json file, guys, remember, if the same settings is defined in both AppSettings.json file or AppSettings.json file, then in that case, this AppSettings.json file is going to override the settings what you defined here. Getting my point?
Yeah,
Getting my point?
environments override. Yeah, sure.
So here, if I define one key with some value, and if I'm defining the same key with a different value, then this some key with a different value will come into the picture. Again, if I'm defining the same key in the LaunchSettings.json file, then it will take the priority. If I'm using the user secret, then it is going to take the priority. If I'm using command line argument, this is going to be the highest priority. So the order is that first the framework is going to read from this file. If the same settings is defined here, it will override. If the same setting is defined here, then it will again override. This will also override, and finally command line argument is also going to override the settings defined in the previous configuration files. Clear? If this is not clear, don't worry, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss, right, one application, right? So by default, if you see this logging file is there, right? And this is the default JSON file, which is created by ASP.NET Core. So currently, this is the logging file, and this is the log label. And here, the default log label is information. And see, logging means what, right? I'll discuss this logging in detail, but for now I'm just giving you one information that logging means it will by default ASP.NET Core Framework comes with some default logging provider. What are the default logging provider? The default logging provider are, right, console and debug. So if we are running the application, right, for example, let me set this logging provider as, right, trace. So if I run the application, then by default, ASP.NET Core Framework is going to log some information. Let us run the application, see whether it is going to log some information or not. So what I'm going to do, right? So let me go ahead and run the application using HTTPS profile. Right, so currently it is not logging. Okay, I will come to this part, right? But what exactly happened? Right, so this is the logging settings which is required for logging the right, providing the logging information for your application. This is allowed host. This is basically comment to the picture when we are going to discuss the course, right? So this is how you can define, right, your application. So what I'm going to define, I'm going to define a custom key here, and here the data is going to be defined in the form of a key value pair, right? So let us proceed and define one custom key. So I'm going to provide this custom key. So this is my custom key. So here, this is the key name and this is the value, right? And here I have written my custom key value coming from the AppSettings.json file. Clear, guys? So basically, what is logging, I will discuss, or course I will discuss, right? In morning session, right, I have started discussing this logging concept. I will also discuss this concept in your session. So currently what I have defined here, inside the AppSettings.json file, I have defined a global key, right? That the key name is my custom key and the value is this one. Clear? Yes or no?
Yep. Yep.
Yes.
Right. Now what I'm going to do is how I can access the data. So for accessing the data, we have two options. One is I can make use of a configuration interface or I can make use of a configuration manager. Whenever I'm going to discuss controller or you can say any kind of services, at that time I will show you how to access the configuration settings, right, from different configuration files using this iConfiguration manager, iConfiguration interface. But for now, right, I can make use of this configuration manager within the program class, right, to access the configuration settings. So basically, whatever the custom key I have defined here, this value I want to retrieve and I want to display in the UI. So for this purpose, right, we are provided with two options. We can make use of this generic get value method, or you can make use of this configuration manager indexer. So currently you can see we are having this web application builder instance, right? If you go to this program class, this is my web application builder instance. So this is my web application builder instance. So using this builder instance, right? And guys, remember, if you remember, whenever we created this create builder method, is it configure the default iConfiguration services? Yes or no?
Yep.
Yes, so the default configuration services are already registered. So using this builder dot configuration, I can access the data from this AppSettings.json file or any configuration file. Doesn't mean that this key must be present in AppSettings.json file. This key can be come from anywhere from anywhere means from these settings, right? It can become from AppSettings.json, LaunchSettings, secret manager, command line argument, right? From anywhere you can read the right, the value can come. So using this get value generate method, what I need to do, I need to specify what type of a data I'm going to retrieve. And here you need to provide this key name and you need to provide a default value, right? So whatever your custom key, if that custom key is present, what is that value? That is going to be converted into string type and that is going to be stored here. If this key doesn't exist, then this default value, it is going to stored here. This is one of the approach to access the data, right, from the configuration file using configuration manager using the get value generic method. Here it is important to specify the type of a data. So what type of a data you are trying to access? For example, this is string. I specify this is string. If I'm accessing some integer, I need to specify int. If I'm accessing some Boolean value, I need to specify this is going to be Boolean. And this default value is optional. If you want, you can provide. If you don't want, you can write ignore this thing. The second option is you can make use of a string indexer to access the data, right? String indexer means what? Now, it is always going to return the data in the form of a string. It is always going to return the data in the form of a string. So what you need to do, builder that configuration, it is the indexer and the string key name you need to pass, and it is always going to return the data in the form of a string. So the point that what you need to remember, if you are accessing the string value, better to go with this indexer approach. If you are accessing other than string, then you need to go with this approach. Even though you can also access the string values. Clear? Okay. So let us modify the right program class and see whether right we are getting the data as expected or not. So here you can see I'm showing you both the approach. So this is my custom key, right? Okay, let me give this value as 1. And this is my custom key, right? Here I'm accessing the key, my custom key, I'm providing some default value. And here I'm not providing any default value, I'm using the string and indexer, right? So in this case, if the value is not there, then it is going to be null. Right? So here it is a default value, so string up, right? So in this case, it can return some nullable type. So this is going to return null. So we are putting this null, right? So with these changes right now, what I'm doing, I'm accessing this one and I'm printing this my custom value, and that is what it is going to display in the browser. So run the application and see whether this value, whatever we define, I'm getting yes or no. Yes or no?
Okay.
So you
Yeah.
have to define a key using the key value pair because this is a JSON. JSON means you need to store the data in the form of a key and a value. So once you define the key, you can access the data in 2 ways, right? Using iConfiguration service or using configuration manager. iConfiguration service is basically going to be used within the controller and right within the services. That is what we are going to discuss in our coming session once we start MVC and Web API project. Another option is that, right, if you are accessing within the main method, then using this configuration manager, you can access, right? So build up that configuration, and here, using the generic get value method, you need to specify what type of a data this key is going to be returned. If this key is present, this value, it is going to return, and that value we are going to store here. And other option is that using the string indexer. This is the key name that what we need to pass to this string indexer. And in this case, it is always going to return the data in the form of a string. Clear or not?
So, sir, what means we are not using that configuration variable anywhere? Why we declare that?
Sorry?
Line number 10, configuration
Right.
line number 10, sir. Why we declare that? I didn't get.
Right. So basically, right, I just need to make you sure that this configuration, it is a configuration manager, right? So if you are using something like this, then also it is going to work.
Yeah.
In this builder dot configuration, basically this is the configuration object. And to make you sure that this is the configuration manager, right? What I'm using, I have written this code, right?
Okay.
This is not used, right? You can comment this one. But to make sure this is the configuration manager, right? That what we are clear?
Yes, sir. Builder.
So
Right? So let me.
what if we have different class files? So there, how we can retrieve this value?
That is what I'm going to discuss in our coming session. That's what I have told you, na. Once I start discussing the MVC Web API project, then I will show you, right? So for that purpose, right, for example, like let me give you one idea, right? So for that purpose, what I need to do is I need to use configuration service, right? I configuration service, right? So we have already discussed
Oh,
this
okay,
thing.
right, right.
In our coming session, I'll discuss this thing, right? So don't worry about this because we have not yet discussed, right, any controller, any services, right? Once I discuss controller and the services, I'll show you how to access the data from the right configuration file. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Right. Now we have already discussed the execution order. First this file, then this file, then this file, then this, and finally the command line argument. Let us prove these things, right? So what I'm going to do is, right, I'm going to define the same key, right, with the name whatever I have defined here, my custom key. So I'm going to define the same key inside the AppSettings.json file. So this is my AppSettings.json file dot environment and AppSettings.development.json file. So this is the AppSettings.development.json file. Here I'm defining the same key, but here I'm setting this is the value is coming from the development machine, right? And one more thing that what I need to make sure, yes, the environment is development, so that this file is going to be load, right? So in this case, you can see the same settings, whatever I have provided here. I mean the same key. My custom key is present in AppSettings.json file. My custom key is also present in AppSettings.development.json file. And currently I'm setting the environment as development. And with development environment, first it will load this AppSettings.json file. It will read this value. Then again, it is going to load this file. And this time, again, this key is present here. So this value will override the value what is provided here. So finally, this value what is provided in the development.json file, that is what it is going to display, right? So let me run the application. I'm getting from the AppSettings.development.json. Yes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm running HTTPS profile. So this is my HTTPS profile, and I make this environment as staging. So with staging environment, right now, if I run the application, then my custom key is going to be read from AppSettings or AppSettings.development.json.
AppSetting.
AppSettings. Why? Because this development.json file will not come into the picture. Why? Because the environment is staging. And this is the HTTPS profile. And here I'm running the application using HTTPS. And this time you can see from where the data is coming. AppSettings.json file. Clear or not? Yes or no?
So when we publish the project, that time launch settings file is there or it's not there?
So what I'm saying from the beginning. So if this launch settings file, this launch settings is only for right your local machine. Do you think that in real time in your production, are you going to use this URL? Are you going to launch the
No.
browser in your production environment?
No.
Then why this launch settings? So that is what I'm saying from the beginning. This file is only for your development
Local.
environment. And this file is basically going to give you how the application is going to behave in different environments, but not for the production. So this is only for your development environment. Clear?
So, but for staging, if we are hosting this project for staging environment, that time this file, if you're saying this launch settings file is not there.
First of all, then this file is only available in Visual Studio. That's it. This file is only available in Visual Studio. If you are hosting the application, means you are publishing the code. Once you publish the code, LaunchSettings.json file will not be there. Clear?
Yeah,
But then
sure.
app settings file it needs to use for the keys and all the settings.
Obviously, so in production, right, in the machine where you are going to host the application, there you need to set the development. This ASP.NET Core environment, right? For example, if I'm going to host the application in staging environment, so I need to go to the staging machine where I need to take my published code, where I need to deploy my published code, and there only I need to set the environment as a development. How to set the environment as a development? That basically varies from server to server. If you are using IIS server, you have different option. If you are using a right Apache, that is a different option is available there. Right? There is only you need to set the development. Clear?
Okay, so once we set that, then that specific environment app settings file is being used.
Right? Yes. And this app settings.json file, development.json file, this is part of your publish file. So once you publish, these files are available.
Sir, we
Clear,
can
guys?
say that app setting.json is a global, means which is for whole application setting, and for app setting.development JSON is for only development environment, and other we can create that for other setting.
See, app setting, not see development environment means yes, you can consider. If the environment is a development, this file will come into the picture. Similar to this, you can create another file within this folder, right? That app settings.production.json, app settings dot right staging.json. And
And
once you publish the file, right, whichever environment you are going to publish the file, in that environment, you need to set what is the environment, right? What is the
and
ASP, right, environment variable value. Well, if it is if set the development, then development settings, what you define that will come into the picture. Currently, you can consider, let assume we host the application into an environment and we set the environment as right, what I can say, staging. So if I set the environment as staging, then what it will do? It will going to load the app settings.json file and it will look for app settings.staging.json file. App settings.staging.json file is not available, then it is not going to do anything. So whatever settings we defined within this app settings, those are going to be made available.
okay. And in whatever setting we have wrote in app setting.json, only app setting.json, that is applicable for whole application.
Yes, this is the generic one. First, what I'm saying, first it will load app settings.json. Then only it is going to look for the environment specific. If the same settings what we defined here, if that is available here in the environment specific
Then
JSON file,
override.
that
Yes.
value is going to override. If
Override.
not
Correct.
available, no issue. That is
Okay.
whatever you defined here, that will come into the picture. Right? For
Okay.
example, currently, right, if I'm running the application using staging environment, am I getting this value from the app settings or not?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Good.
Right. So next,
Hello.
yes.
Can you please show by adding one app setting dot shading JSON and changing the environment key once if possible?
Sorry.
Can you please add the app setting dot staging JSON file and change the environment name in the launch setting if possible?
Clear?
So after adding that asset dot staging JSON and just changing environment name ASP.NET Core environment value in the
Here
launch
I'm
setting, I
setting,
can access the values, right?
say here, what is the environment currently I'm setting for HTTPS profile?
It is staging.
So currently, what exactly it is going to do? It is going to load the data from the staging environment. App settings start a staging environment, right? So here, this value I have provided. Let me run the application and see whether it is going to load the data from the staging environment or not.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Clear?
Yeah, clear.
So now what I'm going to do is, right, I'm also going to set the settings, right, in the launch settings.json file, right? So next what I'm going to do, I'm going to this launch settings.json file and I'm setting that one here, right? So again, my custom key. Right. So my custom key value is coming from environment variable, right? This is LaunchSettings.json file. Clear? The same key I have also added here, right? So now if I run the application, then the data, it is going to display this one. It is getting LaunchSettings.json file. Clear or not?
Yes, clear.
Right now you can also use the same thing right in the right from the command prompt. So command prompt means right what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the application through command prompt, right? So what I'm going to do, I open the project properties file, right? Go to build debug, open launch profile. So HTTPS. So this is the command line argument section, right? So here you can pass. So how I'm going to pass the command line data? Let us reach option. So hyphen, then you have to provide the key and then the corresponding value. This is how we need to pass from the command line arguments, right? So this is what I have taken here. Go to this one and place it here. Once you provide here, Control S, save the changes, and then run the application. And now this time you will see it is coming from the command line arguments. Clear?
Yes.
Clear, guys?
Yes.
And here, right,
Yeah.
once you load the command line arguments there, automatically this key is added here. Clear, guys? Right, so these are the different environment that what you can do, right? So some of the real-time scenario, right? If you want to look, you can store the connection string. This logging information is already there. Some external API configuration you can set like API URL, right? API key, some custom application settings, right? For example, the page size, something like some right authentication related service, the JWT token, what is your secret key, issuer, who is the audience, right? All these things you can also store inside the configuration file. Clear, guys?
Is it good practice to keep connection string and all other password in the app setting.json file?
Yes, right.
Because it is going to be when we are going to publish the application, it is going this app setting.json file is going to be published with that.
Right. So
Correct.
definitely without that app settings.json file, how you can read the data?
No, generally when
You
we
should right. You should ask the question, right? Should I store the connection string in the app settings.json file? And if we do some kind of a check-in and check-out, right, in your source controller like Git and TFS, this information are going to be publicly available. Not publicly, anybody can access. That should not be a good practice. So for that purpose, right, in your local development environment, right, we need to use something called a secret manager. This secret manager, it is only for the local development, but it is not going to be right. What I can say available as part of your source control manager.
okay, so how do we manage this in our QA or any other production?
So in the QA, do you have any production connection string?
No, but for QA also we need to connect with the any database. So for that we need the connection
So
string.
so we definitely you need to put the connection string in the app settings.json file. So currently, how you are managing the connection string, right, in your ASP.NET Core project, right, in your .NET Framework project.
No, something in my team they are using AWS Secret Manager and all, but I am not sure about that how or
Right, so
Vault
that
or something.
that secret manager only I'm saying here now.
No, but
And that
that is
secret manager, what say? That secret manager, what you are talking about, that is for right cloud computing, not for right on premises. On premises, you have to use a AppSettings.json file. On cloud computing, you can make use of secret manager. I mean
okay.
AWS, Azure, right? There you can use
Yeah.
secret manager. But if
So
you are
it
hosting your application on premises, right, on your own right server, then you have to use app settings, because in your own server, that secret manager, right, what AWS is providing, that is not available.
Okay. So when we are dockerize any application on that time, we don't need to dockerize the appsetting.json file on that.
See, you are completely in a wrong direction. Right? So this app settings.json file, it is only connecting connection string or many other informations.
No connection string only.
So no, you can put anything now. So currently what I'm showing, right, in the app settings.json file, you can put many things. Connection string is just one of them. You are getting my point?
Yeah.
So connection string is just one of the information that what we are putting in the app settings.json file. Apart from connection string, many things, right, we can put. We can store in the app settings.json file.
Okay.
Right? So don't think that app settings.json file means connection string. Connection string is one of the right settings that what we are putting. You can put connection string settings. You can put logging related settings. You can put external service information, application, right, paging related settings, right, authentication settings, right, many other settings, right. You can also put in the app settings.json file.
Okay.
Clear?
Yeah.
Anyone have
While deploying the application, we are securing the connection strings and other external URLs, etc., using the octopus or something like that. So, how it is actually happens?
See that octopus and what kind of things you are talking, right? Is it related to cloud or normal API hosting? Did you have
Yeah,
any
yes, it
idea?
is related to API hosting.
Sorry.
Like I was talking about the API hosting.
So did you use octopus on your right? Right, can you show me, right, how you are doing octopus, right, on your local machine?
Yeah, means like in the appsetting.json while working on locally, we are just adding the values like connection strings and other
I'm not talking
directly.
about app settings.json file. So whatever you are talking about octopus, can you show me this on your local machine?
No, not while working on the local. While deploying, we are changing the
On your
connection
local
strings with
machine,
the octopus variable name.
see, on your local machine, you can also do the deployment. On your local machine, right, IIS is there, where you can also deploy your machine. So can you show me octopus there?
I'm not very aware about it.
See, first of all, aware about such things, right? Then only, right, first of all, right, do some research and do some R&D. That see, hearing one term means, right, you cannot do, right, many things, right? First of all, you just need to understand what do you mean by octopus, where it is going to be used, how it is going to be used, whether it is related to cloud computing or whether it is related to AWS or Microsoft Azure, or it is related to IIS, or whether it is related to some, right, on premises. First of all, do some basic research. Clear?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right. So without doing any kind of, right, basic research, right, you will not understand anything. Right. First of all, do some research. Clear, guys?
Sir, I may be putting the question. Eh, actually, if we are publishing this code, publishing this, then this app setting.json will be exposed to other people also.
See, first of all, you just tell me if you are publishing this code, your code will be exposed to other people or not.
Yeah, it will be exposed, but that app setting.json, can it be accessed by somebody else also?
Obviously.
Then in that scenario, whatever we are putting the connection string, so sometimes we mention the password and the username and the
See,
data
first of all,
tables.
you just tell me, right? First of all, you just tell me. So that password and all these things, right, that what you are providing, that should be encrypted format.
Yeah, it should be encrypted.
Right? So first of all, that should be in encrypted format. Second thing is that the server, right, whatever the production server, everybody cannot access the production server. Right? Even right, if you are working as a developer, Do you know any production database? Do you have any production database access?
No, I don't have.
Do you know what is the password to connect it to the production database? Even though you are developing the project, after developing the project, right? Even though you develop the project, you do not have idea, right? What is the IP address of the production, right? What is the connection string they are using in the production? We don't have, right? So it is not like that anybody can access. How even as a developer, if you don't have access to the production server, how other people can access?
Just I wanted to understand that in the real scenario, in the production
So that is
scenario,
what
what
I'm
they
saying.
could
Na?
be doing.
See, what is the real scenario? In real scenario, we are not providing that right connection string in the AppSettings.json file. Whenever we are providing the release note, in the release note, we need to mention, please get the app settings from here and here, and put that app settings in this section of this app settings.json file. So those information we need to provide. We don't have access,
Understood.
right? So why they are not providing access? Because of the security reason. And then how anyone can access this thing? Right? Is what will be your question, sir? If app settings, right? If these things, right? App settings.json file we are publishing, then right? Or if we are using some kind of source control, right, to manage our right code, then in that case, whenever we are doing the check-in and the checkout process, at that time, all this app settings is also going to be available in the TFS. Or if you are using Git, right? There it is going to be available. How we can manage this? So for that purpose, we are not going to use app settings. Right? Any secret things we are going to store in the secret manager, which is not part of our, right? What I can say, which is not part of TFS.
Sir, I
Right?
have one
It
doubt,
is,
sir.
it is
So
clear, guys.
Sir, I have one doubt, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, is that deployment and production is refers to the same term? Is both two are same? Deployment and
Sorry.
production. So the deployment and production is refers to the same terms?
Deployment and production are same means what?
I don't know. I just asked. I
No, that is what I'm saying. Na. Do you know what do you mean by deployment? Do you have any idea what do you mean by deployment?
no. I don't know what exactly that is. So I
Right. So
just heard
don't
about
don't
something
put
like
okay.
deploying an application and I don't know. I just don't deploy anything. Just a doubt. I just asked.
I'm going to discuss this thing, right? What do you mean by deployment? How to publish the application? How to deploy the application into, right, Microsoft Azure? How to deploy the application on premises like IaaS server? I'm going to discuss those things, right? But now just don't think too much about such thing, right? Because you don't know what do you mean by deployment, then how you learn? So, are you a student or working professional?
Yeah, I'm a working professional, but I'm working in Windows application. So it
Right?
will be
Okay. You never worked on a web application, right?
no, I don't never work in web application.
Okay.
So
Okay, fine, fine. I'm going to discuss this thing, right? How to write configure SSL, how to generate SSL certificate, right? How to configure, right? How to deploy the application into Azure and right IaaS. All these things I'm going to discuss, right? And
okay.
what is the staging production, right? All this environment also I'm going to discuss in our coming session. Yeah. Yes. Anyone more? Any guys are having any more?
sir, yes, sir. Also, one thing I need to add to the question one of the student asked you, that application string, like connection string, is being exposed or not over the internet. Like, so I want to add that thing. Like in big companies or MNCs, like you're working in Microsoft, right? So they might be having some VAPT, VAPT conduction is going on, right? Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Huh. So are they performing VAPT before going, before releasing or,
Yes, yes,
deploying
yes,
the
yes,
application
every
over the globe?
yes. See, forget about right Microsoft. Nowadays, right, most of the things are going through the CI/CD pipeline.
Companies are following, yeah.
Yeah, CI/CD
Yeah.
pipeline. So that manual deployment is no longer available. Yes, very few companies in India, they are still today they are doing manual deployment, but most of the time this is going to be CI/CD. And before making
Yeah,
any
because
deployment,
yeah, yes, sir, correct.
right? So before doing any kind of deployment, we need to follow a proper process. And in India, nobody is following the
Correct,
process, right? There is no
correct,
PR,
correct,
there
correct,
is
correct.
no BRT, there is no Scrum, there is no story creation, right? There is no right agile model,
Correct,
right? Nobody following nothing. They are
correct.
just giving you the task and they are saying, brother, I need this task in 2 days or 3 days, something like this. This is what the reality in
Yes,
Indian software companies, right?
absolutely,
Right? So that is what,
precisely.
right? We are following. We are not following the proper structure, right? Even for a small thing, right?
Mhm.
They are doing many kind of a testing, right? Integration testing, right? Right.
Yes.
Unit testing is mandatory. In India, I don't find right anyone writing a unit testing project, right? So even I'm not
Mhm.
sure, right? You are working professional, right? Have you ever write any unit test for your
Yes,
project,
sir.
right? So
No, I
mandatory.
haven't written any unit test. Correct.
Right, so that is what I'm saying. That this is the reality. No one is thinking.
Yes.
Everyone is running.
Mhm.
How, right, early we can complete the project. No one is following the process.
Correct.
Process is more
Actually,
important.
sir, the reason, yeah, correct. So the reason behind asking this question was that, like, before few couple of weeks, I read an article on VAPT. So it is
Mhm.
like, day by day, it is becoming more popular amongst the small scale companies and all. So that's the reason I was like you asking you. So you might be aware about VAPT, right?
Right. So basically, yes. So release note is mandatory. Unit testing is mandatory. Integration
Correct.
testing is mandatory. End-to-end testing is mandatory, right? The testing, right? Before moving to the
Mm-hmm.
production environment, right? Right. We are
Right.
providing such kind of an environment, right? You will not face any kind of issue in the production.
Mm-hmm.
The production similar to the
Correct, sir.
production environment,
Understood.
we are having other environment where we are going to do end-to-end testing, right? And once everything is fine, every team is going to give the thumbs up. It is not like that we as a developer, we provide the code, it's working fine. No,
Mm-hmm.
every team involved in the project,
Correct,
right?
correct, correct.
Starting from the BA,
And
DBA,
for,
right?
I think so, for compliance perspective and audit point of view, it is also more
Obviously,
important.
obviously, whatever the right compliance, right? For example, if you are integrating some payment gateway things, right? That the setting PCI
Correct.
DSS, right? IPA, right?
Switch and
All
all.
these things
Yeah.
you need to follow, right? Properly. Otherwise, right? It is not a kind of right a small company or small project, right? We can give whatever we want. So
Understood, sir.
things is going to be followed. Then only, right? From right and finally the right the
Yes,
project
yes.
matches
Because
are being.
eventually, after all, it is going to be, publicly exposed. So that's the reason they are following.
Publicly exposed means only the application is going to be exposed. Whatever the code settings,
Correct,
right?
correct, correct.
Whatever they are not going to
Mm.
publicly expose. So, right? So that is what we need to follow. But the thing is that in India we are not following this thing, right? Yeah, clear,
Correct.
guys. So what is this app settings
Yes.
and this right launch settings.json file? So these are the two things what we discussed today. Tomorrow we are going to discuss, right, what do we mean by ASP.NET Core middleware components, what do we mean by request processing pipeline, and right, all these things we are going to discuss. We will discuss what is the difference between a run extension method, map extension method, right, use extension method, how the middleware components are being executed, and what is the proper sequence of, right, registering the middleware components. All these things we are going to discuss. Clear, guys?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, one question I have before
Yes,
winding up.
please.
Yeah, generally what I have seen that we don't define those environment variable inside the launch setting or somewhere. Generally, I
No,
am
no,
talking with the
no,
effect
no.
of
Ideally, see, ideally, we should not define this thing here. Why I'm saying, right? These things are only available in the right. What I can say, uh, Visual Studio. Apart from Visual Studio Code, these things are no longer used. Even this file is
uh,
no longer used. So why I'm showing this thing? This is available. So currently, right, this is available, and if you want, you can store. But ideally, this is no longer required. Ideally, if you want to store some global variable, then it is better to place them inside AppSettings.json file or environment specific AppSettings.json file. right? But you should not store here because this file is not available for right other environment, right? Other environment means outside the Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. If you are running the application, these are not available.
Yeah, true. That is what, because what we used to do is we have a separate configuration file where we used to store the configuration and we used to control the Docker image through that externally.
Right. So this is not available right on the right. If you are hosting on cloud, these are not available. For them, you need
But
to store them.
yeah, but the same setting we have stored separately in a configuration file.
Yes. Right. Same settings means right. Yeah.
Environment
Don't take.
variables
Yes.
and all.
Environment
Yeah.
variable. You can do this. Right.
Yeah.
Environment variable, or you can say right any global level variable. These are available. But this command name launch browser, these are not required.
Yeah. This is just from the developer point of view, for the development purpose.
Yes. Only for development in the sense, only when you are running the application using Visual Studio and right.
In local machine.
Yes. Using localhost. Even localhost means if you are running this application using your local IIS, right, it is not going to work. It is only when you run the application using Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. Clear?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Right. Good night. See you tomorrow. Right. Tomorrow we are going to continue this discussion, and mostly right by before Diwali, I'm trying to complete this ASP.NET Core basics, and after Diwali we are going to start right Entity Framework Core, which is very important. And Entity Framework Core minimum right 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks I will take to complete Entity Framework Core, right? Because many things we are going to discuss in Entity Framework Core. In last session, I have taken 16 classes. In this time, right, the number of sessions are going to be reduced because I'm going to increase the duration. Right?
Okay, nice.
Everything related to Entity Framework Core, I'm going to discuss. And this is very important. And right, don't miss a single session of an Entity Framework Core because this is the backbone of a data-driven application, right? So whatever application we are going to develop, database is mandatory. And how to effectively communicate with the database, right? Nowadays, most of the time we are going to use Entity Framework Core. Right, a few times, right, I'm going to discuss right how to use right what I can say edu.net and Dapper also, but mostly right 90 you can consider 80 to 90% of time Entity Framework. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.